Drop the object. Keep your hands where I can clearly see them. What object? This is my walking cane. I'm blind. Don't try to mislead me. I recognize a weapon when I see one. Sir, really? And you expect me to believe that?
At 3:15 p.m. on a clear Thursday afternoon in Phoenix, Arizona, Officer Derek Collins made what would later become the most humiliating arrest of his 8-year career. The man he had his weapon aimed at wasn't holding a club or a bat. He was holding a white mobility cane, the type used by blind and visually impaired individuals to safely navigate their surroundings. Marcus Thompson, a 34-year-old software engineer who had been blind since birth, was simply heading to his favorite coffee shop located 3 blocks from his apartment. He had no idea that his usual afternoon routine was about to turn into a viral incident that would cost a police officer his badge and spark a nationwide discussion about disability rights and police training. The body camera footage would later capture the entire 8-minute encounter in painful detail. Every incorrect assumption, every failure to recognize an obvious mobility aid, every unnecessary escalation that could have been avoided with basic awareness and common sense. Before we continue into this unbelievable story, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. This story is going to surprise you, and you don't want to miss what comes next. Marcus Thompson wasn't just any software engineer. He was a senior developer at a major tech company, a marathon runner, and a strong advocate for disability rights. He had been navigating Phoenix independently for over 15 years using his white cane and his guide dog, Bailey, who happened to be at the groomer that afternoon. Marcus was born with Leber congenital amaurosis, a genetic condition that causes severe vision loss from birth. He had never experienced light, never seen colors, never recognized faces, yet he built a successful career, maintained an active social life, and lived fully independently in downtown Phoenix. His white cane was a standard mobility device, the same kind distributed by the National Federation of the Blind. It was white with red reflective tape, exactly as required by federal regulations for mobility aids. It was 4 feet long, lightweight, and designed to fold easily for storage. Anyone with basic awareness of disability tools would recognize it instantly. Officer Derek Collins had been patrolling the downtown area that afternoon as part of what the department referred to as community policing. Collins, a white officer in his early 30s, had joined the Phoenix Police Department immediately after graduating college. His personnel file would later reveal a concerning pattern of complaints, mostly from minority residents, though none had led to serious disciplinary action. On that particular day, Collins was driving along Central Avenue when he noticed Marcus walking north on the sidewalk. According to Collins' later statement, what drew his attention was a black man carrying what appeared to be a weapon in what he described as a high-crime area. The area was not high crime. It was downtown Phoenix, filled with office buildings, restaurants, and coffee shops. But in Collins' perception, any area with black pedestrians could be considered suspicious. Collins pulled his patrol car to the curb and stepped out. He immediately drew his service weapon without properly assessing the situation, without observing Marcus' behavior, and without recognizing the clear indicators that Marcus was visually impaired. Marcus was walking slowly and carefully, tapping his cane in the sweeping motion used by blind pedestrians to detect obstacles. His head was slightly angled, listening for sound cues from traffic and nearby people. He wore sunglasses and moved with the deliberate precision of someone relying entirely on sound and touch. All of these were obvious signs that Marcus was blind and using a mobility aid. Collins failed to notice any of them. "Drop the object. Keep your hands where I can see them," Collins shouted from across the street. Marcus immediately stopped, confused and alarmed. He had no idea what was happening or who was yelling at him. "What object?" "This is my walking cane." "I'm blind," Marcus responded, his voice steady but concerned. Collins crossed the street with his weapon still drawn, convinced he was dealing with an armed suspect. "Don't try to mislead me. I recognize a weapon when I see one," Collins said in an aggressive and doubtful tone. Marcus raised his white cane, positioning it so the red reflective tape was visible. "Sir, this is a white cane. I'm visually impaired." "Oh, really? And you expect me to believe that?" "Nice try," Collins replied. This entire exchange was clearly captured on Collins' body camera. The audio recorded every word, every tone, every moment where Collins refused to accept what was plainly in front of him. Quick question for you watching. Have you ever seen someone treated unfairly because of a disability? Let me know in the comments. What followed became a clear example of how bias and assumptions can prevent someone from recognizing simple facts. Collins was so convinced he was dealing with a dangerous individual that he could not process the obvious evidence in front of him. "Sir," Marcus said, maintaining patience despite growing fear. "This is a standard white cane used by blind and visually impaired individuals. You can see the reflective tape. It's a mobility aid, not a weapon." Collins stepped closer, still holding his weapon. "Turn around and place your hands on the wall." "Officer, I need to keep hold of my cane to maintain balance. I cannot see where I'm going without it." "I said turn around." Marcus complied, turning toward a storefront window. He kept one hand on his cane for support, which only increased Collins' suspicion. "Drop the object now," Collins shouted. "It's not an object. It's my cane. If I drop it, I won't be able to move safely." By this point, several pedestrians had stopped to watch. Some had taken out their phones and started recording. The body camera footage later showed at least 6 bystanders observing the situation with visible concern. One woman could be heard saying, "That's a blind person's cane." "What is the officer doing?" Another person called out, "Officer, he's blind." "That's a walking stick." Collins ignored them. In his mind, the crowd could have been interfering or trying to assist a suspect. "I'm going to search you for weapons," Collins announced. "You can search me, but please don't take my cane. I need it to walk safely." Collins proceeded to pat Marcus down, finding exactly what you would expect: a wallet, keys, and a smartphone equipped with accessibility features. While conducting the search, Collins examined the cane more closely. It was clearly labeled with the manufacturer's details. It had the standard red reflective markings. It was lightweight and designed specifically for mobility, not as a weapon. Any reasonable person would have recognized the mistake and apologized immediately. Collins did not. This could still be used as a weapon, Collins insisted, refusing to admit he was wrong. "Officer, it's a mobility cane. It's made from lightweight aluminum. It folds for convenience. It's not designed to be used as a weapon, and I need it to walk because I'm blind." By now, a small crowd had formed. The bystanders were becoming louder in their objections. "Leave him alone. He's blind," one man shouted. "This is harassment," a woman added. Collins became increasingly irritated by the crowd's reaction. Instead of reassessing, he became more determined to justify his actions. "Sir, what is your name and where are you headed?" Collins demanded. "My name is Marcus Thompson. I live at 1247 North Central Avenue, apartment 4B. I was walking to Copper Star Coffee on 3rd Street. I go there every Thursday at 3:30 p.m. The staff knows me." This information should have been easy to verify. A simple call to the coffee shop would have confirmed everything. Collins chose not to make that call. Instead, he asked Marcus for identification. Marcus slowly reached for his wallet, carefully explaining his movements to avoid escalating the situation. "I'm reaching into my back pocket for my wallet. It's in my right back pocket." Marcus handed over his identification, which clearly indicated his visual impairment. In Arizona, licenses for visually impaired individuals include specific markings and restrictions. Collins examined the license and saw the designation. This should have ended the encounter immediately. Instead, Collins questioned its validity. "How do I know this is real?" Collins asked. "Officer, you can run it through your system. My license number is B123456789. I've lived at the same address for 6 years. I work at Tech Corp downtown. I can provide their number to confirm my employment." The willingness to verify everything should have reassured Collins. Instead, it increased his suspicion. "Why are you so eager to give me information? Most people don't cooperate this much." Marcus was placed in an impossible situation. His cooperation was being treated as suspicious. His calm demeanor was interpreted as deception. "Officer, I'm trying to be helpful because I want this situation to end peacefully. I'm a law-abiding citizen trying to get coffee. I have no criminal record, no warrants, and no reason to cause any problems. Do you think Marcus handled this correctly? Let me know your thoughts." Collins radioed in Marcus information and waited for the results. While waiting, he continued questioning Marcus. "So you're saying you walk to this coffee shop every week?" "Yes. Every Thursday around 3:30. I've been doing this for 3 years. The staff knows my order. Large dark roast, no cream, no sugar." "And you live alone?" "Yes. I live independently. I use screen reading software for work, audio navigation for walking, and adaptive tools for daily tasks. Being blind doesn't mean being helpless. The system check came back clean. Marcus had no criminal history, no warrants, no violations. His license was valid, his address was correct, and his employment was verified. Collins now faced a decision. He could admit his mistake, apologize, and allow Marcus to continue on his way, or he could continue defending his actions. He chose to continue. I still don't feel right about this situation, Collins said. What exactly doesn't feel right? Marcus asked. I'm a blind man using a white cane on my way to a coffee shop I visit all the time. What exactly about that seems suspicious? Collins couldn't clearly explain what was bothering him, because the real issue was bias. He saw a black man and assumed criminal intent. Everything else was just an excuse to justify that assumption. I think you're avoiding the question, Collins said. How am I avoiding anything? I've answered every question, shown my identification, offered ways to verify my information, and clearly explained where I'm going and why. What else do you expect me to do? The group of bystanders continued to grow. Someone had contacted a local news outlet. A reporter was already on the way. Posts about the incident were beginning to spread on social media. Collins noticed the attention and became defensive. Everyone needs to clear out. This is official police business. But no one was leaving. They were watching what looked like the harassment of a disabled man, and they weren't comfortable ignoring it. An older woman stepped forward toward Collins. Officer, I've seen this young man walk this route every week for years. He's blind. He's just heading to the coffee shop. Ma'am, I need you to step back, Collins responded. I'm trying to help you understand that you're making a mistake, the woman insisted. Collins was now dealing with a situation slipping out of his control. The longer it continued, the more obvious it became that he had made a serious mistake in judgment. Finally, Marcus, a solution that should have resolved everything. Officer, why don't we walk together to Copper Star Coffee? The staff there can confirm who I am and my routine. That should clear up any confusion. It was a reasonable suggestion. The coffee shop was only 2 blocks away. The walk would take about 5 minutes. The staff could confirm Marcus' identity immediately. Collins refused. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then may I continue to the coffee shop? I've provided identification, answered your questions, and allowed you to search me. I haven't committed any crime, and you found no evidence of wrongdoing. Collins was cornered. He had no legal grounds to detain Marcus any further. Marcus had committed no offense, posed no threat, and had cooperated fully. But admitting that would mean acknowledging that he had drawn a weapon on an innocent blind man going to get coffee. I'm going to let you go with a warning, Collins said, as though he was granting a favor. A warning for what? Marcus asked. Collins hesitated. What could he possibly warn a blind man about? Walking while black? Using a mobility cane? Being respectful to law enforcement? Just be more careful about how you carry that stick, Collins said weakly. Marcus paused, trying to process what had just happened. Then he responded in a way that highlighted the absurdity of the situation. Officer, I'll make sure to be careful about how I carry the mobility aid I need to navigate safely as a blind person. Is there a specific way you'd prefer I hold my white cane so it appears less threatening to police officers? The sarcasm was subtle but clear. Collins had no answer. Marcus folded his cane, extended it again to ensure it was working properly, and began walking toward the coffee shop. The crowd stepped aside to let him pass, many shaking their heads in disbelief. The entire encounter lasted 8 minutes and 27 seconds. 8 minutes and 27 seconds that would soon be replayed millions of times online, analyzed by legal professionals, and used as a training example of implicit bias in policing. Collins returned to his patrol car and drove away, unaware that his career was about to come to an end. Marcus arrived at Copper Star Coffee at 3:38 p.m., 8 minutes later than usual. The staff immediately noticed something was wrong. Marcus, are you okay? Asked Jennifer, the barista who had been serving him for 3 years. I just had an interaction with a police officer who thought my white cane was a weapon, Marcus said. Jennifer looked confused. Your white cane? The one with the red tape that you use every day? Yes, that one. News of the incident spread quickly throughout the coffee shop. Other customers overheard the conversation. Several people who had witnessed the encounter entered and confirmed Marcus' version of events. By the time Marcus returned home, videos of the incident were already circulating online. A local news station had picked up the story. Civil rights organizations were being contacted. Marcus spent the evening responding to calls from reporters, disability advocates, and civil rights lawyers. He hadn't been seeking attention, but the situation was too outrageous to ignore. The next morning, the Phoenix Police Department's Public Information Office was overwhelmed with calls. Multiple news organizations requested the body camera footage. Chief Patricia Rodriguez reviewed the footage in her office alongside her command staff. The room remained silent except for Collins' voice refusing to accept that Marcus was blind and using a mobility aid. When the video ended, Chief Rodriguez turned to her deputy chief. "How did we hire someone this incompetent?" Internal Affairs immediately launched an investigation. Collins was placed on administrative leave while the incident was reviewed. The investigation was straightforward. The body camera footage captured everything. Collins had drawn his weapon on an innocent man without reasonable suspicion. He failed to recognize clear signs of visual impairment. He ignored bystanders attempting to correct him. Most damaging, he treated Marcus' cooperation as suspicious rather than reassuring. The disability rights community responded with outrage. The National Federation of the Blind issued a statement calling the incident a shocking display of ignorance and bias. The American Foundation for the Blind offered to provide free training to the department. Local advocates organized protests outside police headquarters. They carried white canes and wore blindfolds to demonstrate how obvious Marcus' disability should have been. The investigation lasted 6 weeks, considered relatively fast for internal affairs. The conclusion was inevitable. Collins demonstrated bias, poor judgment, and a lack of understanding of basic disability tools. Collins was terminated from the Phoenix Police Department. The termination cited misconduct, failure to properly assess civilian encounters, and discriminatory practices. Collins attempted to appeal the decision, but his union representative advised him to accept it. The body camera footage made any defense impossible. Marcus filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against Collins and the department. The lawsuit alleged violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act, discrimination based on disability and race, and civil rights violations. The city's legal team reviewed the evidence and recommended an immediate settlement. If the case went to trial, the financial consequences would likely be significant. The settlement was finalized 4 months after the incident. Marcus received $180,000 from the city's insurance provider. The Phoenix Police Department agreed to implement comprehensive disability awareness training for all officers. The program was developed in partnership with advocacy groups. It included training on recognizing mobility aids, understanding different disabilities, and using de-escalation techniques when interacting with disabled individuals. Collins never returned to law enforcement. No department would hire an officer dismissed for discriminating against a disabled person. He eventually found work in private security, earning far less than he did as a police officer. The body camera footage went viral, accumulating over 15 million views across multiple platforms. It appeared in news reports, documentaries, and academic research on implicit bias in policing. Training programs began using the footage to demonstrate how unconscious bias can lead to serious errors in judgment. The video clearly showed how Collins' assumptions about race and criminal behavior prevented him from recognizing obvious reality. Marcus resumed his routine of visiting Copper Star Coffee every Thursday. The staff greeted him warmly, and customers who recognized him often expressed support and respect for how he handled the situation. Marcus also became an advocate for disability rights and police reform. He spoke at law enforcement conferences, explaining how officers can better interact with disabled individuals. In interviews, Marcus often emphasized that his experience was not unique. Disabled individuals, especially those from minority communities, regularly face misunderstanding and discrimination from law enforcement. His case gained attention because of how clearly unreasonable it was, and because it was recorded. 3 years later, the white cane that Collins mistook for a weapon still sits in Marcus' apartment. It is the same cane he uses every day to navigate Phoenix safely and independently. The Phoenix Police Department continues to show the body camera footage to new recruits. It is part of a training program called Recognizing Our Biases that every officer must complete annually. Chief Rodriguez, who remained in her role, frequently references the Marcus Thompson case when discussing reform. She describes it as a clear example of how implicit bias can lead officers to perceive threats where none exist. The case also influenced policy changes beyond Phoenix. Departments across the country began updating training programs to include disability awareness. The Marcus Thompson incident became a shorthand example of the kind of police encounter that should never occur. What makes this story so important is its simplicity. It wasn't about a complicated legal question or an unclear situation. It was about a police officer who failed to recognize a basic mobility aid used by millions of disabled Americans. Collins saw a black man holding a stick and instantly assumed criminal intent. His bias was so strong that he ignored clear evidence, input from bystanders, and basic common sense. Marcus Thompson's calm and composed behavior during the encounter highlighted how disabled individuals, especially those of color, are often forced to handle discrimination with patience and restraint. Marcus could not risk showing anger or becoming confrontational, even while facing clear injustice. The bystanders who stepped in demonstrated how important it is for community members to speak up when they witness unfair treatment. Their willingness to challenge a police officer helped expose just how unreasonable the situation was. If this story opened your eyes, make sure you're subscribed for more content focused on police accountability and civil rights. Leave a comment and share your thoughts on how Marcus handled such an impossible situation. This is not just a story about one negative police encounter. It is a story about the intersection of racism and ableism, about how bias can completely distort reality, and about the need for better training, accountability, and reform within law enforcement. Marcus Thompson was simply trying to get coffee. Instead, he became the center of a national conversation about how disabled Americans are treated and how implicit bias shapes police interactions. The white cane that Officer Collins mistook for a weapon continues to help Marcus move safely through Phoenix every day. It represents independence, mobility, and the right of disabled individuals to exist in public spaces without fear or harassment. And because of Marcus' willingness to speak out, along with the clear evidence captured on body camera footage, it has also become a symbol of how much progress is still needed to create a fair and equal society for everyone. Thank you for watching this story all the way to the end. The fight for disability rights and police accountability continues.